There comes a moment in every person's life where staying visible is a trap. You're showing up, you're being seen, but you're not growing. You're stuck in cycles of performance for people who don't even care about your purpose. And in that moment, the smartest move isn't to shout louder, it's to disappear. Now, I'm not talking about giving up. I'm not talking about running away. I'm talking about something strategic. I'm talking about stepping back so you can step up. You see, isolation is a weapon, not a weakness. Every powerful transformation is birthed in private. When the caterpillar disappears into the cocoon, nobody applauds, nobody posts, nobody validates. But when it comes out, it's something entirely different. It didn't evolve, it transformed. And that's what you need. But here's the truth. You cannot transform without killing the old identity. Too many people are trying to be new while staying loyal to the old. You can't move into your future if you're dragging your past behind you like a corpse. Stop trying to convince people you've changed while still acting like who they knew. Transformation starts when you bury the version of you that was built for survival and start creating the one designed for impact. The next step is internal. You've got to master the inner conversation. That voice in your head, it's either your coach or your captor. And until you flip that voice, your environment doesn't even matter. The most dangerous cage is the one you don't see, the one built from your own beliefs. People talk about mindset like it's a trend. It's not a trend. It's the thermostat of your life. If you want different outcomes, you don't need more motivation, you need mental renovation. But let me give you the playbook. Don't create in the open. Don't perform your process for applause. Build in silence. Develop in secret. Elevate without a stage. Stop announcing your every move. People don't respect plans, they respect proof. Let your execution talk so loud that your critics have to go quiet. Stop giving people previews of a version of you that isn't done cooking yet. Now, while you're gone, while you're hidden, while you're off the radar, practice relentless discipline. Not once in a while, not when it's convenient, every day. Transformation doesn't respond to motivation, it responds to repetition. It's what you do when no one's watching that sets the tone for what people see later. Your private habits are the raw material for your public results. And then when the time is right, when you've done the work, when you've burned the old you, when the results are undeniable, you reappear, but not as who you were. You come back as a force. You don't return looking for followers, likes, or validation. You return with clarity, with results, with a fire that doesn't need to explain itself. You show up in such alignment that the old you couldn't even recognize this new version. So yes, disappear. Not to run, but to rise. Go dark so you can develop. Walk away so you can walk in power. Because when you return, they won't know what hit them. When people hear the word isolation, they often associate it with loneliness, with rejection, with being forgotten. But that's because most people don't understand power. They confuse presence with progress. They think being seen means they're moving, but true transformation doesn't happen in the spotlight, it happens in the shadows. When you choose to isolate, not out of fear, but out of focus, you are doing what the world's most impactful people have always done. You're stepping away, not to disappear from purpose, but to disconnect from noise. Isolation is where clarity lives. It's where the distractions die. It's where you stop being pulled by the demands of others and start being led by your own vision. It's the forge. It's the place where the fire burns hot enough to melt off old thinking and refine your identity into something new. While everyone else is running in circles trying to stay relevant, you're stepping into a season of invisibility so you can become irreplaceable when you return. Because when you isolate, you begin to see yourself without the filter of other people's opinions. You're no longer performing for approval or reacting to rejection. You get honest about your flaws. You stop outsourcing your value to validation. In that space, you don't have to impress anyone. You just have to confront everything, your habits, your fears, your mindset. That's where the real work begins. When there's no applause, no feedback, no one watching, and you still show up for you. And while the world is addicted to being busy and being seen, you're getting better. You're getting sharper. You're doing the reps no one claps for. And that silence, that's not emptiness, that's development. Because isolation, when embraced with intention, doesn't weaken you, it arms you. It sharpens your focus, amplifies your voice, and builds the kind of strength that doesn't need to be announced. The cocoon looks like a grave to the untrained eye, but to the one inside, it's not death, it's destiny. That's what isolation really is. Not an ending, a becoming. You can't carry who you used to be into where you're trying to go. There has to come a point where you stop tweaking the old version of yourself and start tearing it down completely. You cannot transform while staying attached to a version of you that was built to survive instead of thrive. You've outgrown that identity. It was built for a season that no longer exists. And the longer you try to maintain it, the more it will cost you the future you say you want. The reason most people never truly change isn't because they lack ability, it's because they're too emotionally loyal to their past. They're still protecting the image, still defending the habits, still keeping relationships alive that were built for a lesser version of them, but elevation demands separation. You can't upgrade your life and keep dragging around a system that was programmed for mediocrity. That identity, the one shaped by fear, by rejection, by playing small, it has to die. There's no way around it. Transformation always requires a death before it offers a resurrection. You have to kill the excuses, kill the comfort, kill the need to be liked. You've got to bury the narrative that told you who you were based on pain, not purpose. Too many people are trying to write new chapters without closing the last one. But the old identity will always sabotage the new opportunity if you don't shut the door completely. And it's going to hurt. Because that old version isn't just behavior, it's memory, it's emotion, it's history. But if you're serious about the future, you have to let go of who people knew you as, who you knew yourself as, and become someone who matches your vision, not your past. Stop negotiating with your old self. That version had its time, and it brought you here, but it can't take you there. Burn the bridges. Kill the old habits. Step into the unknown with the courage to be someone your old self wouldn't even recognize. That's transformation. Not tweaking, not improving, becoming. The most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Not once, not occasionally, but every single day. You live with your thoughts more than you live with anyone else. And if that internal dialogue is filled with fear, doubt, and limitation, it doesn't matter how much opportunity is in front of you, you'll sabotage it. Because the voice that dominates your mind ultimately dictates the direction of your life. People think external motivation will save them, that if they just hear the right message, attend the right event, follow the right person, everything will shift. But that's not how transformation works. External voices can spark you, but it's your internal voice that sustains you. And until you shift your self-talk, nothing you try to build will last. You'll always default back to the level of your identity, and your identity is shaped by what you repeatedly say and believe about yourself in silence. You've got to stop being your own enemy. You've got to stop rehearsing failure before you even try. Every time you say, I'm not good enough, I always mess this up, who am I to succeed? You are programming your mind to collapse under pressure. That's not humility, that's self-sabotage. That's the old voice trying to keep the old version of you alive. And as long as you let that voice dominate, your actions will always align with defeat, even when you desire success. Mastering the inner conversation doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means telling yourself the truth about who you really are, not based on your past, but based on your purpose. It means interrupting the old dialogue with declarations that match your future. It means replacing I can't with I'm becoming, replacing fear with faith, and refusing to allow negative thoughts to run on autopilot in your head. You have to coach yourself daily. Speak life, not limitation. Train your inner voice to agree with your vision, not your insecurity. Because your mind is always listening. And if you don't take control of that conversation, it will control you. We live in a world obsessed with announcements. Everyone wants to post the plan before they've done the work. They want the applause before they've earned the achievement. But transformation doesn't require validation. It requires execution. You don't need to tell the world what you're building. You need to build it. And that means keeping your process sacred, quiet, and focused. When you speak too early, you dilute the energy required to finish. You start performing for approval instead of preparing for impact. You turn your progress into a production. But real power moves in silence. Real growth happens behind the curtain. The most powerful people in the world aren't the ones constantly explaining. They're the ones delivering results without warning. Create before you reveal. Build it in the dark. Protect your dream from premature exposure. Because when you expose it too soon, you invite feedback from people who don't understand it, criticism from people who haven't built anything, and opinions from people who aren't even qualified to speak on your future. That kind of noise will slow you down, confuse you, and make you question yourself in moments when you need to be locked in. You don't owe anyone access to your process. You owe yourself commitment to the outcome. Let your life speak when the work is done. Let the results become your announcement. That's what makes the impact undeniable. When you didn't have to convince anyone, you just became what they said was impossible. So stop leaking your energy with constant updates. Stop asking for permission to pursue your vision. Shut the door, get to work, and when the time is right, the world won't need an introduction. They'll know exactly who you are by what you've produced. Discipline in the dark is what separates the talkers from the transformers. It's easy to be committed when people are watching. It's easy to post your effort, to show your grind, to get credit for being on the path. But that's not where greatness is built. Real growth doesn't happen in public. It happens when no one sees you, when no one claps for you, when no one is checking in. That's where the discipline matters most. You have to decide that your future is worth doing the work, even if there's no applause, no feedback, and no immediate payoff. Because the results that show up in the light are earned through consistency in the shadows. The early mornings, the late nights, the hard decisions, the moments where quitting seems more reasonable than pushing forward. That's the gym of your greatness. Every rep you do when nobody's watching is building something nobody can take from you. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being committed. Discipline is doing what's necessary long after the mood to do it has passed. You don't rise by feelings, you rise by principle. And when your habits align with your purpose, discipline becomes a lifestyle, not a chore. You stop negotiating with distractions. You stop entertaining excuses. You move from trying to becoming. The dark is a proving ground. It's where your character is tested. It's where your identity is forged. It's where you learn to trust yourself, not because you feel powerful, but because you're doing the work that builds power. Most people will never taste transformation, because they only show up when it's convenient. But those who master the dark, who grind in silence, who sacrifice in private, who commit when no one's checking, those are the ones who show up later with a presence that commands respect without saying a word. So don't be discouraged by the silence. Don't underestimate the unseen. What you're building in secret is preparing you for a moment so loud the world won't believe what they're seeing, because they never saw it coming. When you come back, don't return looking for validation. Don't return hoping people notice. Return as a force so undeniable that your presence alone speaks louder than anything you could ever say. You didn't disappear to prove a point. You disappeared to become a point of reference. You stepped away to evolve, to build, to confront, to create. And now it's time to step back in, not as a participant, but as a presence. You don't return to fit in, you return to stand out. You don't come back with questions, you come back with clarity, with authority, with weight. Because the version of you that left isn't the one returning. This you is forged in discipline, refined by silence, strengthened in solitude. And when you move now, it's with intentionality. You don't chase trends, you set standards. You don't seek permission, you own your space. Most people return still explaining, still apologizing, still asking to be accepted, but not you. You've done the work, you've walked through the fire, now you move different. You speak less, but your actions speak more. You don't need the spotlight to feel powerful. Your results shine on their own. You've become someone your old self couldn't even imagine. And that's why you no longer need to convince anyone. You are the evidence. And listen, some people don't recognize you anymore. That's the point. You weren't meant to come back to be familiar. You were meant to come back transformed, elevated, focused, unshakable. Let them wonder where you've been. Let them question what happened. But when they see what you've built, what you've become, they won't be able to deny the shift. So come back like a storm. Come back with results, with confidence, with purpose, so sharp it cuts through every doubt in the room. You're not the follower anymore. You're not the one looking for the path. You are the path. And now the world has to adjust to the version of you they never saw coming. But you always knew was possible. So now you know the path. Disappear, not to escape, but to evolve. Isolate yourself, not out of weakness, but as a weapon to sharpen your focus. Kill the old identity, the one built on fear, on failure, on fitting in. Master the conversation that happens when no one else is around, because that voice will either become your greatest ally or your loudest enemy. Create in silence. Don't show your process, just show your results. Let your discipline in the dark speak louder than any declaration ever could. And when the time is right, when the vision is clear, the habits are locked in, and the old you is gone without a trace, you return. Not as a replica of the past, not looking for attention, but as a force, as proof that reinvention is real, as evidence that silence produces substance, that the grind nobody applauded built the strength nobody can deny. This is how you transform. This is how you rise, not by being seen, but by becoming something so solid, so authentic, so powerful, that when you reappear, you don't just inspire, you shift everything around you. Disappear, do the work, return different.